God. Oh God. Oh God. I just watched Welcome to my God. Welcome to Rex Reviews Godzilla. On this channel, I'm currently trying to review well, I'm not trying to. I'm reviewing every Godzilla movie in release order. I'm gonna try to have them all done before the next new live action Godzilla movie releases, which I think is Godzilla minus zero, I think, in November. I should probably double check that, right? Today I'm reviewing All Monsters Attack, which, as I've always known it, Godzilla's Revenge, the American title for the film, or the international title for the film, I'm assuming. I have not seen Godzilla's Revenge since I was probably a teenager. And I would say that my viewings in my teen years, like my viewings of this film in my teen years, were probably just pity viewings or morbid curiosity. Like because I probably the first time I saw this film, I was probably like 9 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old. I didn't like it then. I probably liked it more because of all of like the child's imagination stuff going on in this film. But I never liked this movie. But I did rewatch it several times in my teens, and I think it was just like morbid curiosity and, you know, that thought in the back of your mind, like, it can't really be that bad, right? Like, surely it's been 2 or 3 years. If I watch it again, it can't be that bad. I remembered this film fairly well compared to the previous Godzilla movies that I've watched. A lot of the previous ones I didn't remember too well. Some I remembered more than others. This one I remember pretty well because it's pretty infamous. I don't think this will be a super long review. But before I go into it, I would just like to cover like a few basics about this film. I did take notes during the movie of things that I might want to talk about. So if you just give me a second, I'd like to pull that up and go ahead and get into it. Ishiro Honda directed this. This came out in 1969, so I believe this is only 1 year after Destroy All Monsters, which was the last film that I reviewed. And there was a lot of talk of that being the last Godzilla movie. Now, I don't know about you. I'm assuming if anybody finds these videos, you're probably a Godzilla fan. So you probably know the lore pretty well. For me, I'm used to whenever there's like a final Godzilla movie, you know, it's whatever, right? Maybe sometimes it's pretty good. Maybe sometimes it's bad. And then you have like a period of time where there's no Godzilla films. And then you have, they make another one. And usually the comeback movie is pretty strong. At least from like what I remember. The comeback movie is pretty strong. Like if you think about even in the American Godzilla films, if you look at the Godzilla movie that released in 98 and how, that was it. Like, the Americans were not allowed to touch it until I think it was Gareth Edwards' 2014 film. Great comeback. I know that the return of Godzilla, Godzilla 1985, in my opinion, incredible comeback. Even though I don't know that I don't know what movie came before that. I want to say the movie before that was Terror of Mechagodzilla, which I don't remember being that bad, actually. But I haven't watched that movie in many years. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I thought that after Destroy All Monsters, the next Godzilla movie would probably be a pretty strong entry. No, this is one of the worst Godzilla films I've ever seen. This is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is, it's a kid's movie. When I talked about Son of Godzilla being like a kid's movie, I've said that about some parts of the Godzilla films recently. This one is a kids movie. And I don't know. I just don't believe it's a very good one, even in that context. But Ishiro Honda, I was surprised to see that he directed it, because it's so different than his other films. But he directed it. It's only a year after the previous movie. It had a really low budget. In fact, the exact figure is not really like well known, so I couldn't find it. But apparently it was significantly cheaper than the last movie, Destroy All Monsters, and that was due to like a shift in Japan, or at least with Toho at the time. They wanted to shift to economical, family-focused films. I guess they were competing with TV at the time, and film attendance was dropping, at least for this franchise. I'm not sure if this was part of a wider... I feel like this was part of a wider thing with Toho shifting to family, like lower-budget, family-friendly films. But anyway, attendance was only 1.48 million tickets in Japan, which was a drop from the 2.58 million from Destroy All Monsters. It was the first Godzilla film to fall below 2 million tickets. This is the first Godzilla kids film, primarily aimed at children. It was launching the Toho Champion Festival format, which I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Very low budget, uses a lot of stock footage. It introduced Gabara, which was a new bully-themed monster. It does popularize Monster Island. In the previous movie, they talked about Monster Land, but this was, I think, where they really popularized the idea of Monster Island, because they focus on it so much. It had a short runtime, only 70 minutes. Your main characters is Ichiro, which is a young boy that's getting bullied. He's the main character of the movie, and the movie deals with him getting bullied and him overcoming that. He's let's see. He has a friend named Sachiko, but she's not really in the film much. The main kid that bullies him is named Sanko, Sanko, I think. But he's not in the film much. And then you have Mr. Shinpai, who is a toy maker that I think lives next door to the boy that helps look after him, because his parents work. Both of his parents work, so the kid spends a lot of time by himself. And then the kid gets bullied, and he's a smaller child. And he uses his imagination to escape his real-world problems into Monster Island to go be with Manila, Godzilla's son, this is the worst version of Manila, because, okay, so in the American version of this film, Manila has, like, this dumbass voice, kind of voice. And I didn't know this, that in the original Japanese version, Manila has a totally different voice, and it literally sounds like garbage. It sounds like somebody literally in a Manila suit trying to do their lines. Like, it's very muffled. It's bad. This is the same Manila design that we've been getting previously, except in this one, via the boy's imagination, Manila can be the same size as the boy, and then, grow and be his regular size for, like, fight scenes and stuff like that. So, anyway, man, I'm trying to decide how much I even really want to talk about this movie, because I could sum it up really quickly, but I think my notes are pretty concise. I'll actually just go through the film. If you've never seen it, just watch this video. There's no reason. I take that back. I think that some people would watch this out of, like, kind of curiosity. I tried to do some research to see if this is, like, considered the worst Godzilla film. I think for me it probably is, of the ones that I can think of. Like, there's some other really bad ones, but this one's bad. This one's terrible. But from what I researched, it's usually considered in, like, the bottom 5, but not the worst, which is interesting. And I think that one of the reasons why is because this movie is so different from any other Godzilla film. It's so bad and it's so different that I think out of like pure curiosity, people will give it another watch, like I remember doing when I was younger. And I think for that reason, some people don't rate it as the worst, because it's just, it's almost like it's just interesting in a lot of ways. And I understand that. But it is bad. So anyway, the movie starts. I think this is so hilarious. The very first frame of the film is stock footage of older Godzilla battles from like Son of Godzilla, and I now understand why. When I saw, okay, you would have to like be following my channel, which only like I think we have 18 subscribers right now, so not very many people are. But before I reviewed Son of Godzilla, when I was doing the review for the movie before that, which I can't remember what movie was before Son of Godzilla at the time. Maybe it was Ibira Horror of the Deep. But when I realized that Son of Godzilla was the next film, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad, because I confused it with Godzilla's Revenge, with All Monsters Attack. I realize now why I confused Son of Godzilla and Godzilla's Revenge. It's because Godzilla's Revenge uses so much footage from Son of Godzilla to tell this story. Because basically the story is like this kid, befriending Manila, Godzilla's son, and then alongside Manila, dealing with a bully, and then learning to overcome the bully. So they reuse tons of footage of Manila's fights in Son of Godzilla and stuff like that. And so that's why I confused these two films. But yeah, I thought it was, fitting that the very first frame is stock footage of old Godzilla movies, old Godzilla battles. But anyway, you're introduced to the kid, Ichiro, and it's made clear at the beginning of the movie. The kid gets bullied by other kids. Like they show him walking to school or walking home from school, and he runs into these other school kids that bully him. It's not really severe bullying. They just kind of like taunt him and stuff. He likes to collect electrical components, and so he ends up finding like a vacuum tube or something like that. It's some kind of electrical tube component. He ends up finding that, and then the bullies see him, and they give it to me, and they take it from him, and they tell him if he wants it back, he needs to run over to this. There's a guy that's painting a sign. He's climbed up a ladder painting a sign, and he's got like a motorbike. His little like scooter or motorbike below him, and the bullies tell the kid, go over there and honk the horn a bunch of times, and then you can have it back. And the kid's like, I don't want to do that, it'll startle the painter. And he just runs away. And so he's being bullied. He loves Manila. He talks about Manila all the time. Also at the beginning of this film, between the kid talking about how much he loves Manila and showing that he's dealing with bullies, they also play these random songs, about pollution. So they don't do it the entire film. They only seem to really do it at the beginning, but they play these short songs where there's somebody singing in Japanese, and they're singing about Godzilla hates bullies, and Godzilla hates smog and pollution, and the monsters destroy and cause, wreckage, and but pollution is worse than that. Okay, it was just weird. It just felt like shoved in, and looking back at the film now, it feels even more shoved in, because like they didn't do anything else with it. It's not like a recurring theme throughout the movie or anything. They just like are trying to shove in these lessons for kids. Okay. It is what it is. Around this time, early in the film, you also learn that there has been like a bank robbery or some kind of heist. 50 million yen has been stolen the thieves, and the cops are looking for them. the kid goes home, his home situation, the bullying scene was, I guess, when he was walking home from school. His dad is like a train conductor. So, he happens to pass by his dad in a train. His dad works on a train. And he speaks to his dad briefly, and his dad is like, hey, I'm working extra shifts, be good or whatever. His mother, I'm not sure where his mom works, but his mom also works. So the kid goes home, and you kind of get a glimpse of his home life, and it's kind of sad. Like, I will say there were moments in this film that, kind of tugged at the heart. I'm an emotional person, and like some of this stuff, with that, I grew up with like kind of a rough childhood and like a rough, not normal home life. So some of the scenes did get to me a little bit. The kid goes home and he's alone. Was it Shinpai? The toy maker is his neighbor and like checks up on him, kind of babysits him a little bit while his parents are working, makes food for him, tries to make toys and let the kid test out the toys. And there's attempts at comedy also in the film. Some of it lands more than others, but there was one scene here with the toy maker that I had me bust out laughing legitimately, because after the kid gets home, and the first thing he does is he speaks to the toy maker, and they talk a little bit, and when the kid is leaving, he's of course he starts talking about Manila, and he starts talking about the monster roars on Monster Island, because the toy maker is trying to make him like a little toy. It's like a little computer that shows you the moon and space and stuff. And the kid's like, I'd rather see Monster Island, and I'd rather hear if we could record the monsters roaring, that would be cool. The kid leaves. And then as soon as the kid leaves, the toy maker stands up and he steps on like a really hot electrical component. It's like a soldering gun or something. I don't know. I'm not a real man. I don't know what it was he stepped on, but it was like hot electrical component. And he screams out loud and grabs his foot. And then the kid comes running in and he's like, which monster roar was that? Which monster was that? And the toy maker's like, that was me. That was my roar. His foot's burning. And the kid's like, oh, well, that sucks. And closes the door. Like, just, like little kids can be, like there's like no sympathy in that moment. It's kind of funny. It made me laugh. So I'll give it that. So it seems like what the kid does is when the kid is home alone, he likes to take a nap and play with like his imaginary computer, like, parts that he's put together, and he likes to contact Monster Island and reach out to Manila, and basically he like goes to sleep and he dreams about being on Monster Island and talking to Manila. And this is where you're introduced to Manila in the film, and you're introduced to Gabara, or however you pronounce this monster's name, which is the bully of Manila. So this is to represent that Manila has a bully just like the kid has a bully at school. And, they pretty much just introduce those concepts, and then it quickly ends when the toy maker wakes up Ichiro for dinner, or wakes him up to talk to him about something, and then the kid's like, why'd you wake me up? I was with Manila. He was going to take me to see Godzilla. Anyway, we fast forward to the next day. Ichiro decides to explore an abandoned building. He doesn't want to deal with his bullies. He sees his bullies while he's walking maybe to school or something, I'm not sure. But he has an abandoned building that he clearly likes to go into and like search for more components that he can use, maybe for his little computer to contact Manila and Monster Island. There he happens to find the driver's license of one of the thieves. So the robbers are hiding out in this abandoned, 4 or 5 story building. The robbers are hiding out in this building. One of them has dropped their driver's license, and the kid finds it. And, then he leaves, and of course the robbers are like, oh shit, like we gotta find this kid. He's got our ID. He's got one of our ID. So one of the robbers follows him home and sees where he lives. So that night, the robbers don't do anything at first. But that night the kid has a dream, and this is like a pretty big sequence with monsters, so I'll go over it. But that night, the kid goes to sleep. He dreams about Monster Island. He sees Gabara when he gets there. He runs from Gabara, finds Manila. He has a conversation with Manila about being lonely, and Manila's like, yeah, Godzilla's really hard on me, and he wants me to fight my own battles, but I'm not very tough. And so they have like this bonding conversation about that. And then we watch a stock fight from Godzilla versus Ebirah, and we pretty much watch the whole final fight between Godzilla and Ebirah. Like, the kid and Manila watch it, but it's stock footage from that movie, Ebirah Horror of the Deep. And then it goes right from that to Godzilla versus Kumanga from Son of Godzilla, and we watch that fight. And I got to be honest with you, at this point, like, I'm watching it, and there's several moments I'm just thinking, what are we doing here? Like, we're showing entire stock footage battles. Like, I know that they wanted to cut down the budget, and I know that they, the runtime is shorter. It's almost down to an hour. The budget has been massacred. Look how they massacred my boy. This really, really, really should have been like a 30 or 40 minute TV special, like a Godzilla TV special that Toho put out or something for kids. As a movie, the amount of stock footage that they're using in these scenes, in this movie, it's terrible. And it's hard to sit through, because even though they make attempts to like recontextualize the stock footage, it's kind of like in Gojira. And then in Godzilla King of the Monsters, where they put Raymond Burr into the original Godzilla film to, kind of recontextualize some scenes and stuff like that. But in my opinion, that was done extremely well, Could it have been done better? Did we lose a lot in translation? Like, I think you could make arguments both ways, but the point that I'm trying to make is that you can make the arguments. But here, it's barely at all recontextualized. You're just watching a kid and Manila in the movie watch a Godzilla battle that you've probably already seen. It's just bad, in my opinion. Sorry, I like to have a little light behind me, and I totally forgot to turn that on. And let me actually cut on the other one. I know that you don't care about this, but I do. I'm just weird like that. I'm sorry. Let me just cut this on real quick. Okay. So anyway, sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, Gabara appears again, and Manila decides, I can't keep running from him. I've got to fight him. So Manila decides to fight Gabara, and stand up for himself. And so he does. He fights him. I don't need that much light. He fights him and he loses. Gabara pretty much beats him up. So Manila fights Gabara, gets beat up, and then we cut back to okay, so Gabara appears, Manila fights him, Gabara just beats him up. Manila shrinks back down and runs back to meet back up with Ichiro. Then we cut to just randomly cut to another stock footage Godzilla fight. And it's his battle versus the Jets in maybe Ebirah Horror of the Deep. I can't remember which Godzilla film. I feel terrible. I feel like I should be the Godzilla encyclopedia after watching all these films, but it really is hard to keep everything. It's the one where he catches the jet in his hand, which I thought that was so cool. Anyway, we watch that entire fight scene, and then we watch him fighting the giant condor, which, I believe was also from Ebirah Horror of the Deep. And we're also cutting to, stock battles from Son of Godzilla. Keep in mind that Godzilla has very different looking suits in these films. So as we're going from stock footage from, one Godzilla movie to another, and I mean back to back, Godzilla looks different. It's a different Godzilla suit. And we're going back and forth between them. It's immersion breaking. It's not interesting. It doesn't add value to the film, really, in my opinion. In fact, I think it drags the movie down because you're re-watching fights that you've already seen, and some of it is just inserted poorly, like just very suddenly inserted into a moment of dialogue. They just cut to a stock battle of Godzilla, and some of it is just like that. The pacing of it is not good. So I mean, I was literally typing out in my notes, "What the fuck are we doing?" And then we cut to the stock footage of Godzilla teaching Manila how to shoot his breath, which I think is in Son of Godzilla. Remember, he steps on Manila's tail, and then Manila finally shoots his breath, and Godzilla's like, oh, he pats him on the head and shit. Oh, by the way, Manila's voice is changing through all of this. Like, in some scenes, like from Son of Godzilla, you're getting Manila where he's making like these weird dog noises or whatever, like whimpering noises, and then you have Manila talking when he's short, talking to Ichiro in this really weird muffled voice that is just so, it doesn't fit. I don't know what would fit, but this doesn't fit. It's awful. And obviously Manila's voice is slightly different, or they use different sound effects or whatever in different films. So just like Godzilla's suit is changing with the stock footage, Manila's voice is changing as well. The movie's already not good, but man, this other stuff is just... It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, I think some people will not rank this movie as the worst Godzilla movie just because it's almost like, it's like this, it's like so bad that you want to watch it. Like it's not that you want to watch it. It's like if somebody came out of the bathroom and said, oh my God, bro, I just projectile vomited all over the bathroom. Like that's disgusting. That's bad. But most people would probably like, look, does that make sense? Like most people would probably like open the door and be like, oh my God, you really did. And then leave. That's this movie. Like I'm sorry I'm not better with words, but that's one of the best ways that I can explain it. Some people say it's like a car crash and you can't look away, but a car crash is way more interesting than this film and way more exciting. This is more like I projectile vomited everywhere, but people will still be like, I gotta see, morbid curiosity kind of thing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, so then that after we watch all of these stock battles, it ends with actually kind of a creepy scene that I remember from my childhood. I remember this being really creepy. Ichiro is watching the Son of Godzilla moments where Godzilla is teaching Manila to shoot his breath. And, Manila does eventually shoot his breath when Godzilla steps on his tail. And then it cuts back to Ichiro, who's like, he runs to this area where he's surrounded by these plants and he's cheering for Manila. And you don't notice it, but one of the plants in the background right behind Manila is a guy in a plant suit. And he reaches around and grabs Manila. And this is when like the robbers have come back at night and they're kidnapping the kid. And this is how they wake him up out of his dream. But it was like really creepy. I was like, damn, that really got me. Because it's done pretty well. You don't really notice it. The guy in the plant suit in the back, you don't really notice him. Like, once you do, obviously, you can't unsee the human-shaped plant. But I didn't notice him before, and when he reaches around and grabs the kid, it's actually kind of like a genuinely creepy moment. It's weird how they can have, like, things in this film that are, like, really effective, like some of, like, the bullying scenes and stuff like that. But they can't do even the simplest things right across the film consistently. Anyway, they kidnap him. They go back to the house at night while he's having this dream. The thieves kidnap him and bring him back to their hideout, which I don't know why they do that. Because they're not going to kill the kid. It's not like this is a kid's movie. They're not planning to murder the kid. So I don't know why they would bring him back and show him where their hideout is, knowing that they're just trying to get the ID back. And then probably let him go. But anyway, they take him back to their hideout. The kid, he's sitting in a chair. One of the thieves sends the other to go try to find a car to steal, which ends up being the toy maker, the neighbor, Shinpai, ends up, or Shinpei, I'm sorry, I don't know, ends up being his car. They end up stealing. So this leaves the kid, Ichiro, with one of the thieves, and of course he starts imagining Monster Island again. And so in his head, I guess he takes a nap while the other guy's gone, and the other thief is just chilling. So the kid goes to sleep, and he goes back to Monster Island again, and he sees Manila getting beat up by Gabara. And then Manila gets help from the kid. Like the kid, like Gabara, who by the way, if you don't know what Gabara looks like, let me see if I can pull up this monster, because this monster is gross. He's absolutely disgusting. Here you go. So this is him right here. And you can see like Gabara just looks like, humanoid form covered in like genital warts or whatever this shit is. Absolutely gross design. Anyway, that thing is beating up Manila. And, Manila's down, and he bends over to, like, beat up Manila some more. The kid is up on a cliff and, like, pushes a big boulder off, and it hits the monster. No, it hits Manila. The rock lands on Manila's tail, which he rolls over and shoots his breath and hits Gabara in the face. And they do this whole elaborate scene thing where basically Manila stands up to Gabara, and with help from Godzilla and with help from Ichiro, they end up beating up Gabara. And honestly, this is the first time you get like some original footage, and the scenes are not terrible. The fighting scene with Manila and Gabara is kind of goofy, because it's really just like, Gabara's chasing Manila and trying to grab him, and it's like if you've ever watched like one of those movies like Home Alone, where they're trying to get the kid, and the kid just keeps ducking under their arms and running around them, like that's all he's doing. Then you get a fight with Godzilla and Gabara. They do one thing that I thought was really good. There's a scene where like one of Gabara's abilities is that he can electrocute. He can, like, if he grabs you, he can electrocute you. So Godzilla comes up, and he's like watching Manila fight Gabara. Manila tries to run away, and Godzilla's like, no, motherfucker, go fight him. Like, stand up for yourself, right? But Godzilla, being dad, is still gonna watch, just in case. And when Gabara grabs Manila and starts electrocuting him, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Godzilla's definitely gonna shoot Gabara with his breath or something, like blow his head off, because he's electrocuting Manila, like it's over. But instead, what Godzilla does is he shoots his breath at Gabara's feet and just kind of breaks it up. Almost like he's going, nah, that's cheating, bro. That's cheating, no. And I thought that was all right. I thought that was pretty cool. That kind of subverted my expectations. I still don't like the movie, but I thought that was pretty cool. And then Gabara fights Godzilla. Godzilla actually uses like a lot of like judo throws. I'm a very casual MMA fan, so I don't even know if it's judo, but it looks like judo throws, which was kind of cool to see, because, it's always kind of interesting to see Godzilla fight another monster that has like kind of a humanoid form, two legs, two arms and stuff. They can wrestle around, they can box, they can do a lot more, in some cases. So, a lot of wrestling between these two, and it's pretty good. It's not bad. And I liked seeing Godzilla, like, he judo throws him around and like flips him through the air and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's not bad at all. And anyway, they end up beating Gabara. The kid gets woken up by the kidnapper. They have stolen the car from the toy maker, so they want to leave in the car. So they start tying the kid up. They take the kid to the car, and then the kid starts kind of like channeling like his courage. Basically, he's in the back seat of the car while they're trying to get the car running, so that they can escape. And the kid is thinking about like how he saw Manila stand up to his bully and win, and now the kid is going to do the same thing. So he starts channeling that energy. He's bound. He's bound by a handkerchief around his wrist and one around his mouth. He gets those off, gets out of the car, runs back into the abandoned building, and here we go, like full like Home Alone. If you've ever seen that movie, or if you've ever seen any movie that's like a family movie where there's like a young kid and like these adults are trying to get him, and you know how like in Home Alone the kid will set up traps or like sneak around and like, you know, throw stuff to distract the adults and stuff like that and outsmart them. And that's pretty much exactly what this becomes. The two thieves run inside the abandoned building. They're trying to get Ichiro. And, you know, he just constantly outsmarts them. You know, he's making noises, he's sneaking around, he's going up and down the stairs, and they can't find him. And while this is going on, the toy maker just happens to be walking by, and he stumbles upon his car. So luckily, like, it did show that the toy maker had been out eating, and he ran into the police, and, you know, him and the cops were talking about, you know, the heist and stuff like that while they're at like some, you know, I don't know what you would call it, like some vendor that's serving like sushi or something. So they're eating late at night, and I guess when, you know, it's weird because he has a car, you know, he has a car, but he's trying to sell it. So I guess he's walking home, and he happens to walk by, you know, the abandoned building, I guess, and see his car. I don't know. At this point, you know, it stood out to me, like, what are the chances that he walks by and sees his car like that? But that's not even in the top, like, 100 things wrong with this movie. So who cares? He finds his car. He sees the big bag of money. The 50 million yen is still in the car. The thieves left that in the car to go chase the kid in the abandoned building. I don't know why they didn't just take off. Like, they had the ID, didn't they? I think they did. I think they got their ID back. I'm not sure if I don't know if they actually show that in the film or not. I don't know if they do. I thought that was very interesting because when they break in at night and they kidnap Ichiro, they kidnap him and bring him back to the abandoned warehouse. But, you know, they never search the house or, you know, search him to confirm that the ID is on him. If they did, I must have blinked and missed it. And I just kept thinking, like, okay, you got the kid, but, like, if he took your driver's license home and he left it in a drawer somewhere or left it in his room somewhere, and then you kidnap this kid and he goes missing, the police are going to search his room and they're going to find your driver's license. Like, I'm trying to follow your logic, but I'm struggling here. I need you to show me something. I need to, you know, anyway, I never saw them take their driver's license back, but maybe they did. Maybe they did, and I just don't remember that particular detail. Anyway, the kid outsmarts the robbers. The toy maker Shinpei calls the police. They come. They're outside the building. The kid comes running out of the building. The cops arrest the thieves, and, you know, the kid, you know, the toy maker says, you fought them all by yourself. You stood up to them all by yourself. And the kid says, I had to, and starts crying. It's a good scene. You know, it's like, oh man, that's, you know, there's some emotion there. I think, you know, overall, I want to say I think this kid did all right. Like, this is a really young kid. Like, this kid is like, what, 10 years old? That is like the star of this movie. Like, I want to. I'm curious. I want to know, did he continue acting? So the kid was born in 1962, and this film is in, what, 1916? So he's like 7 years old? He's like 7 years old. Anyway, here, I'll let you see. Wow, born 1962. My dad was born in 1964. That's crazy looking at this now. Anyway, Tomonori Izaki, I think he did a great job. I think he did a pretty good job. Only did he continue acting? Yes, only briefly as a child actor in the late 60s, early 70s takusatsu scene. I don't know what that is. Guest spots in several Ultraman series. That's really cool. Appearances in Kamen Rider. Don't know what that is. Daigoro versus Goliath and other minor TV roles. Largely stopped acting after the mid-70s as he grew older and did not pursue a long-term career in entertainment. Attempts to interview him for books on Ishiro Honda stuff in later years were unsuccessful, suggesting he kept a low profile. Oh, man, man, I hope he wasn't abused as a kid. Like, I know that, like, I don't know, like, when I think of child actors, I, like, always worry about, how they're treated. You know what I mean? So he left acting, refused interviews for books on Ishiro Honda and stuff. Best remembered day for his performance in, wow, he's still best remembered for this performance. Well, I wish him well, man. I hope he's okay, and I hope that he wasn't, like, mistreated in the acting business over there. Obviously I don't want to suggest that Hollywood in Japan is like Hollywood in America, and this is like, fucking like 60 years ago or something. So, I don't know, but that's sad. I hope he's doing well though, and I hope he had a great life. He did good in this movie, is what I was really trying to say. And then the movie ends with, the kid goes back home. Crooks are arrested. Kid goes home. He has a really sweet moment with his mother. He basically has a moment with his mother, the bullies, and like kind of like his dad, sort of, at the end of the movie. He's having breakfast with his mother before he's about to walk to school, like the next day or whatever. And his mother tells him, like, I promise I'll never work late again. I'm so sorry. And the boy, who's, feeling more confident now after what he's been through, tells his mom, oh, you don't need to worry about that. Like, you and dad need to work to make money. Like, it's important, and I can take care of myself now. And she, like, smiles and, helps him put on his backpack, and he goes running out the door, and then his mom immediately starts crying because that was just such a sweet thing. Like, that was a really, really good scene, and it really hit. Even though it was really short, it was such a small part of the film, and it was a short scene, it really, really hit. It was really, really well done. That's probably the most, like, emotional moment of the movie, like, for me, like, where I was like, damn, like, that really hit. I thought that was a really great scene, honestly. Simple, but really, really effective. So then he heads to school, he runs into his bullies, and this time he decides to fight his main bully, which Sanko. So he decides to fight Sanko. So he does, and he uses he did this with the when he was fighting to escape the thieves. And he does this with Sanko. He uses, like, moves that Manila used in some of, like, the fight scenes and stuff. And so he's emulating, like, Manila and Godzilla, and like, using some of their evasion moves and biting and stuff like that. He beats up his bully. He wins the fight. And then they have, like, this reconciliation moment between him and the group of bullies. First of all, like, I just want to say this, watching this scene reminded me of my childhood and how much things have changed. Because when I was a kid, I remember even in elementary school when I was 7 years old, if I got into a fight with someone at school or someone that was bullying me, like on a basketball court, at a friend's house, anything, if we got into a fight, and it happened multiple times in my life, people would just stand around and watch, and it would just be you and the other guy, and you'd fight it out, and, sometimes you'd win, sometimes the bully would win, it would go however it went. Most of the time, you would end up, like, being friends after, or shake hands after, or at least there'd be some sort of mutual respect. Like, it's hard to fight another man fist to fist and not have some degree of respect for him afterwards. Like, that's That's been true my whole life. I've been in fights I've won and lost, and it's always been like there's some degree of mutual respect most of the time afterwards. But now it seems like every time I see anything about like a school fight, or I hear like about someone, you know, like, because I got friends now that have kids and stuff like that, they get into a fight at school. It's always like, you know, one kid, and then he's surrounded by like 7 other kids, and they're all stomping his head in. So, I don't know. I thought about that briefly during this scene. I was like, man, you know, it kind of was nice when, you know, if you had to deal with bullies, or if you had you were scrapping with another kid, you could just scrap. You could just have your little fight, and then it would get broken up, or it would end, or whatever, and then you would just, you know, that would be the end of it. Nobody's life was in danger, you know. You know, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's like that anymore. He wins the fight with his bully, and then like for like almost like this reconciliation scene, like the painter is still up there painting. I guess he's working on another sign, and his motorbike is below him, and Ichiro runs away, and he runs to the motorbike and starts honking the horn like the bullies had dared him to do before, and the painter falls, and all this paint falls all over his face and all over his clothes. The bullies all start cheering, and they're like, oh my god, he did it, wow, they're so impressed. And then Ichiro runs away. He's running from the guy who starts chasing him. He happens to run by his dad, the train conductor, who's like in the train, and you know, his dad's like, the window's down next to him so he can see, and he's like yelling at his dad like, hey dad, tell this guy I'm sorry, it's my fault, like just tell him I'm sorry. And the dad's like, what? And then the dad sees the guy chasing him covered in paint, and the dad's like, what the fuck? And so the dad has to stop the train, get out, and like calm down the painter, and you know, and you know, and then the, you know, Ichiro like you know, runs away, and you know, the movie ends. I think maybe he reconnected with all the other bullies, and you know, and the girl that he's friends with in the movie too. What was her name? I don't want to leave her out, even though she's not in there much. Sachiko. So they all meet up, all the kids meet up together, I think, and like they're kind of like cheering, and now they're all friends, and they all, you know, go about their way to school together. You can hear the father, by the way, saying like, I'll pay for it. I will pay, you know, I'll pay for your laundry or whatever you need to do, which was kind of like, you know, I felt conflicted, because like part of me was like, you know, like, he stood on business and beat the bully up, but then he still like did the thing the bullies wanted him to do and caused this dude to fall off the ladder, and now his dad is going to have to pay for it, and his family's poor as shit. They live in like a really poor apartment building, and you know what I mean? His parents are already working overtime, and he barely ever gets to see them. So I'm like, I feel like it's a little bit conflicting there, but I think they just did that for fun, just for like a fun, happy, wholesome ending. And I think that like as an adult, like I'll probably overthink it, but I think kids would like it, you know. And this is obviously aimed at kids, and I think that kids would see that and think like, oh, you know, that's awesome. And you know, so I think they just kind of did it for fun, and they knew that it would hit differently for like an 8-year-old than like a fucking 60-year-old. So I get it. And that's the movie. I did not think I'd be talking about this for 50 minutes, so I guess it's more interesting than I thought it was. But yeah, I definitely think that if they wanted to do something like this, it would have been way better as some kind of TV, like direct-to-TV special that's like 45 minutes, and cut out, you know, don't use so much stock footage, like release it on TV. Cut the budget down, like, no, don't cut the budget anymore, but cut the runtime almost in half, so you can use maybe a little less stock footage and a little bit more original footage, and I think that the product would have been better. I don't know if it would have made more money, which the issues around this are clearly economic. So I don't know, you know, you release it on TV, I don't know how getting paid for that works. I mean, obviously movie tickets make sense. You get revenue from selling the movie in theaters, but I don't really know necessarily how it works with TV and TV ratings and how you get paid from stuff like that. So maybe economically it wasn't feasible. Shout out to Jeff from Nerd Night Podcast. But yeah, this wasn't good, man. In fact, talking about Godzilla's Revenge, let's just look at the IMDb. Does this have All Monsters Attack? So here, let's. If you really want to see, God, IMDb 3.9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes 38%. It's only 8 reviews, but 38 from critics, 18% from fans. Yeah, this was not good. This was not good. I don't really know what to say. I spent a lot of time watching it, wishing I could just fast forward through it. And a lot of time I was watching it, I was like, man, I feel like I'm wasting my time a little bit. Especially with all the stock footage. I don't know why, if they were thinking about ending Godzilla with Destroy All Monsters, and then they think, you know what, like, sales have been declining. Movie attendance is down. Revenue is down. The popularity of the franchise is down. And then this was the answer? I just don't follow the logic. I don't understand how they thought that this would help the situation. It feels like they were only thinking about how can we spend the least amount of money and make the most amount of money. If you only look at this movie through that lens, it makes a lot more sense. You don't see all these returning notable Godzilla actors. The main actor's a kid. Most actors in the film I didn't recognize. I do think there were one or two other, actors, like the chef that's serving the food when the toy maker is eating with the cops. I think he's one of the guys that has appeared in a lot of previous Godzilla films. But for the most part, I didn't recognize 95% of these actors. And then your main character's a kid, and you're filming most of it in like an abandoned building and in this kid's apartment. So to me, the only way it makes sense is they said, we want to make a Godzilla movie. We want to spend as little money as possible and make as much money as possible. And this is what they came up with. And it's just, they came up with a bad movie. There's no way around it. Like, I could see somebody like having appreciation for parts of it. Like bullying is an issue that's really, really important to me. I fucking hate bullies. I cannot stand bullying at all. And, so, this is an important subject to me, and I can appreciate that there's a Godzilla movie that wanted to address it, even though I'm not really sure that a Godzilla movie is the right place. Let's read the room, man. I'm not here for a lesson on bullying, but if you can work it into a Godzilla film in a way that makes sense, I'll give it a shot. I'm curious. I think the kid's performance was good for the most part. I think the movie is just so weird and bad and obscure and strange that's the only somewhat redeeming quality of it, honestly. It does have some scenes with the kid and his bullies and the kid and his parents that do tug at the heartstrings. There's little moments of a well-delivered lesson or a really well-performed moment between characters, but just small little moments that aren't none of it even added all. You add all that together, it's still 9% of the movie. So yeah, not good. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. but it's not good. I don't have any desire to watch it again. What a strange, weird, what a strange, weird little experiment. You know, that's the nicest thing I can say about it. But I'm glad it's over, and I'm ready to move on to the next movie, which is, what is the next Godzilla film after all monsters attack? The next one is Godzilla versus Hedorah, 1971. I knew that as Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Interestingly enough, when I was researching whether or not Godzilla's Revenge is the worst Godzilla movie ever made, some people said that Godzilla vs. Hedorah was ranked lower. That it's considered by a lot of fans as worse. Guys, I got a lot of Godzilla movies to review, and we're gonna go on some arcs, right? Like right now, we're in our Showa arc, but within that arc, we're in a dark place. I feel like we're in a dark place right now. Like, we're just in a we're in a dark place, man. God damn, bro. Like, I'm sitting here right now just dreaming of the days that I get to the return of Godzilla, and I get to Godzilla versus Biollante, and fuck, like, oh my god. We gotta push through. We gotta push through. We gotta be strong. I feel like some of these not good Godzilla movies I've been exposed to back to back to back, or I feel like I'm being bullied right now by the Godzilla franchise. I feel like they're bullying me. They won't give me the Godzilla movie that I'm looking for, like, where we didn't know how good we had it with Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster or Invasion of Astro Monster. We didn't know how good we had it. We didn't know, starting with Ibiro, we didn't know we were about to embark into a dark era, apparently. But who knows, man? Like, maybe Godzilla versus Hedorah is good. I don't know. I don't really remember it that well. I remember the pollution, and I remember some weird, like, music and, like, psychedelic visuals, I think. And I think they had, like, a pretty brutal final fight between those two monsters. So, maybe it'll be good. Maybe Godzilla versus Hedorah will save us after all monsters attack. We'll see. Anyway, guys, thanks for sitting through this. If you like this video, then like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. All right, see you next time.